right, hi everyone, and welcome. I'll get started and doing my intro. I anticipate we'll have more joining as we get into the hour here. So as usual, my name is Brandon Searle. I'm Director of Innovation here at the Offsite Construction Research Center. And thank you for joining our Transforming Construction 25-26 webinar series. So a quick overview of the webinar. We have an intro to the OCRC and our partner Building Transformations, an introduction to Brandon Ionata, Solution Line VP at Graitec, and Antonio Marcantonio, CTO at Metaligna. And then they'll be presenting, and then we'll have a Q&A and discussion afterwards. Just a quick reminder for folks, you can submit questions anytime. Please submit them to the Q&A feature. It's separate from the chat. If you submit them to the chat, my colleague Roshni will jump on and move them to Q&A, but we use that as the queue for questions. If you have difficulty hearing, check your audio settings. And if there's any other problems, just submit something to the chat or Q&A and we'll get on it. A reminder, all sessions are recorded and we post them on our YouTube page, and Building Transformations does so as well. So just a bit about UNB. It's the oldest English-speaking university in Canada, having been founded in 1785. It was the first university to have an engineering, forestry, and computer science program, with the first engineering lecture being taught in 1854. We now have two campuses, one in Fredericton, which is where I'm located today, and that's what you see in the screen, and then another one in St. John, both in New Brunswick. And about 25 centers and institutes with leading research chairs in that area. We've also been quite involved in the last decade plus of creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem here in New Brunswick. And UNB was actually named the most entrepreneurial school in Canada when it was last awarded by Startup Canada. So just quickly about the Research Center, our values. Many folks who know us know that we started through an industry partnership, and that's grown since to where we've worked with over 70 industry partners across the country. So we focus on research that is applied and industry relevant. We focus on collaboration, whether that be with industry or with our peer institutions. As an R&D institution, we are focused on excellence and obviously on integrity. So, you know, what comes out of our research needs to be, it needs to focus on equity, diversity, inclusion, and so on, and ethical principles. So even though we are doing applied research with industry partners, sometimes they may not like the answers of what we have, but that's how it goes. A couple other things on the R&D front or on our themes. So these are kind of the four areas we focus on: process and productivity improvement, digital tech implementation, which they're kind of tied together. We have our structures and building enclosure testing, which we've launched our new high performance building research lab, which is off campus. And then we do benchmarking and innovation in construction research, which is tied to a lot of the roadmaps and different things we do as well. Outside of that, we host a variety of webinars, conferences, etc. We have an MOU with Northumbria University based in Newcastle in the United Kingdom. And in 2024, we hosted the Transforming Construction with Offsite Methods and Technologies conference here in New Brunswick. In 2026, we're bringing it to Newcastle and supporting Northumbria in that. So feel free to mark your calendars for that. I believe it's August 18th to 20th. Actually, it says right there. Okay, just a bit about building transformation. So their vision is transforming the built environment through innovation and to foster a community that is committed to knowledge sharing, advancing technology and innovation in the built environment. You may have known Building Transformations as Canada BIM Council, acronym CAN-BIM. They evolved to be Building Transformations about 4 or 5 years ago when they started doing more and more in the US. There's over 1,800 total members, 135 plus member companies, and so on, and quite a social media following. So I encourage you to check out them on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can also check out the membership, both individual and organizational. One of the key things is if you have an organizational membership, everyone within your organization can get a free membership. A couple other things, there's the Innovation Spotlight publication, so that's available on the website. And then there's a variety of in-person events. So you can see 5 happening in 2026, Calgary, Montreal, Phoenix, Halifax, and Toronto. And I'm sure there's more to come as well. Just quickly, the next larger industry summit is again in Phoenix, Arizona, April 15th to 17th. So I encourage folks to mark their calendars for that. And lastly, BT always asks us to thank their mission partners. So you can see Strategic being PCL, Gold, and so on. And then finally, I want to thank our partners here at the OCRC, the Government of Canada through a variety of groups there, and then OSCO Construction Group as our founding partner. And finally, our marketing partners, which are all listed here. All right, so with that, I'm going to welcome Brandon Ionata and Antonio Marcantonio to join me here. Brandon is a Solution Line VP at Graitec, and Tony is the CTO at Metaligna Modular. They're going to present from design to delivery, digital transformation in Canadian Offsite Construction. So Brandon, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, I'll stop sharing and I'll give you a thumbs up when I can see yours.
Great, thanks, Brandon. And let me just hit start on this. How are we looking?
Perfect. Looks good.
Awesome. So, hi everyone. So as mentioned, my name is Brandon Ionata. I'm the VP Fabricate at Graitec. I've been in the business for about 13 years now, dealing with some of the major players in the offsite industry daily. As VP, of our Fabricate solution line, I also oversee our product direction of a number of pieces of software. So basically all of those software take data from design to fabrication, primarily in timber, so the wood industry, steel, and rebar industries as well. So Graitec, on top of being one of the largest resellers of Autodesk products in the world, is at its core a software development company. We're roughly, I think we're just under 700 employees now globally, and about a third of that actually are dedicated towards development and technical. And what we like to do is find gaps in processes and industries and provide solution to problems that have been overlooked by our competitors. And what we see today is that the framing industry isn't just, especially the offsite framing industry, it's not just overlooked, it's been completely ignored. We find that there's a gaping hole in this industry where most solutions out there today are either kind of half-baked or they're 25 to 30-year-old technology, or worse, they're both of those things. So, we've been aiming to kind of revolutionize this area. So a bit of, a bit of history maybe. I actually came to Graitec through the acquisition of Struxoft Solutions. At the time, we were a privately owned Canadian company, started in 1993 in Montreal. Primarily, we resold Pro Steel, which was a modeling and manufacturing solution for the steel industry. So our founder, George Jamy, saw an opportunity to bring framing software into the North American market and struck a deal to be the sole distributor of HSB CAD in Canada and the US. But what happened was in 2006, Revit really started to make waves in the industry and George saw the future. So the company was quickly transformed into a software development company, starting to develop a Revit-based framing solution for the offsite industry in 2007, to eventually hit the market early in 2008 with Metal Wood Framer, which would eventually become the framing solution known today as Struxoft. So, at the time, MWF, as we called it, was the first commercially available Revit application built off the Revit API. So we're pretty proud of that fact, being a Canadian company, to have been the first to market something off of the Revit API. In 2008, of course, when the software came out, the housing market completely crashed. So we lost a good portion of our potential customers. But we found our footing in the BIM market. So early adopters being large light steel framing subcontractors, primarily interested in coordination of interior wall partitions such as healthcare buildings, casinos, and hotels. So less of the offsite. There was some panelization, but we didn't really see many modular companies look to us immediately. So since then, we've been working to plug a lot of the gaps I mentioned earlier in the software ecosystem and partner, one partner at a time, excuse me. And I really want to kind of talk about this, and I want to say partners and not customers, because in this industry, there's no off-the-shelf software that will do what today's builders want and need. As a software developer, we definitely try to get close. But in reality, the offsite industry is not standardized. Materials, machinery, processes, they're all changing always. They're always being reinvented. So as software editors, it means we stay very, very busy. Our partners rely on us to keep the lights on and to create software that fits and accelerates their building standards and processes, automates their workflows, speaks to their machinery, and in some case even sells their products. So really, this is a partnership that exists between us and our clients, and it's there to help them push the envelope and on what they can achieve, basically, move their business forward, or at least help to. So I'll talk a little bit about the solution. So as Canadians, we see that the digital transformation in the offsite industry is already on strong footing. Okay, most of the Canadian offsite companies we're engaged with have already adopted or are in the process of adopting standard industry software. I'm speaking, of course, of Autodesk Revit, as it's the predominant package which offers offsite builders a lot of advantages. Easy collaboration, data-heavy modeling, visualization, and a steady stream of proficient professionals entering the job market. So Revit is a very difficult place to quickly create the level of detail required for manufacturing for offsite, of course. And that's where we step in with Structsoft. We leverage the Revit data source model in Revit itself. So it means there's no data loss experience when you're, trying to move from platform to platform, importing, exporting data. We use the Revit API to build out automations and, help customers quickly create LOD 450 models. The Revit model becomes a single source of truth from which we can create CNC output to power the fabrication shop. So as mentioned, the source Revit model and any linked Revit files are used together to input all framing data directly in the Revit environment. Since Revit is a sandbox, structural, architectural, and MEP models can be linked to handle coordination, avoiding any errors before the fabrication begins. Automations can be easily created and create all level of detail from framing conditions, including hardware such as clips, hold downs, lifting toggles, and then document all of the components for fabrication through automated shop drawings, bill of materials, and cut lists. All this data can be templatized and used from project to project, essentially becoming a set of company standards, building efficiency within the company. So you're doing, we're taking care of a lot of the repetitive motions. And of course, certain aspects of engineering can be done. We do handle like H-steel truss design, which is pretty unique in the industry. And we're continuing to push forward towards a full structure FEM analysis engine in the future. So anyone that knows Revit knows that fine details such as light steel connections, nail lines, routing lines, and sheathing, and even component management for delivery is out of scope of your typical Revit model. It was a tough lesson for us to learn about 10 years ago when we tried to manage all of this in Revit. So what we did to overcome some of these issues in Revit is basically create an entirely new platform, once again leveraging the Revit data source, but allowing us to manipulate it in a lightweight cloud environment. We found that at most shops, the people needing to fine tune and schedule output files for manufacturing weren't the same people driving Revit. So we created a light browser-based system to manage this data. And what it allows you to do is basically make edits to operations and wall panels that are edits specifically to the CNC code. And we allow you to do this obviously visually, so you're not trying to sit there and edit individual lines of code in a text file. We can also add panels to work orders and roll orders, essentially allowing the user to schedule the order of operations for their manufacturing facility, as well as the order of erection and delivery to site. And of course, we're able to handle printing alphanumeric barcodes and exporting all of this data to CSV, text files, and any number of, I think, over 24 now, different CNC machines. So I'll talk to you about a few customers. Some of these are some of our largest customers, and it's just to show you kind of a little bit what is capable in a software like this, in an offsite construction software. And all of these customers do build offsite. So the first is an amazing partner that we're heavily involved with. They're called the Digital Building Components, or DBC for short. They're a subsidiary of one of our earliest adopters with whom we've been working with since 2008. As a company, DBC focuses on delivering an engineer-to-ordered finish exterior system that is high performance and quick to install. Their projects are typically big, hundreds of panels big, and what sets them apart is their process and their people. They're emphasizing the creation of a fully coordinated 3D model in Revit, which feeds data downstream to their machinery and shop floor. So their innovative process keeps errors in the field to a bare minimum. Their factory processes focus on safety and efficiency, and these guys can churn out thousands of panels in a typical year. What's amazing about a partner like DBC is they're always pushing the envelope on technology, streamlining design to reduce their design phase by almost 80%, while increasing level of detail in their models. They've actually pushed a lot of the development that we've done in the Struxoft software, focusing on accelerating erection times and ensuring that they can rough in any level of project, from their standard hospitality structures to massive data centers and even complex healthcare facilities, roughly 40% faster than their competitors building, typically on site. This example is quite interesting. Blueprint Robotics. They're an impressive manufacturer with a facility larger than 2 football fields. They deliver a high-quality wall panel to site at a high level of completion, accelerating the rough-in process on site, giving property owners a turnkey project in less time than their competitors. This fully automated multi-million-dollar wood facility is powered by advanced Weinmann machinery, all out of Germany. And they had a particular challenge for us, which was to flip the switch on their old software system during a live project. And this is what I was mentioning earlier about being that trusted advisor and really, being a partner, not just a solution provider. Okay. We actually put more than 25 developers, technicians, and project managers on the project, transforming their DFMA process in just months. Moving them from their old system, we enable them to increase productivity 2.5 times. The last example I'm going to show you is one kind of to help people think outside of the box. We tend to think of offsite structures as quite bland. We can see that, in this example, obviously there's no limitation. So obviously the Las Vegas sphere, I think a lot of people know about this this structure by now. Our client, Performance Contracting, completely coordinated and detailed the project to be output onto a like HCL roll formers. So just some stats from the project to show you the scope of what was done. More than 8,000 total wall and floor panels were modeled. 132 separate wall types, 33 separate floor types, and more than 173 unique opening configurations were used in this project. So quite massive. Of course, full disclosure, these examples are not Canadian companies, unfortunately. Due to time constraints, I didn't get the releases I wanted to speak about some of them. But we did bring with us one of our innovative Canadian partners, Tony Marcantonio, CTO at Metaligna out of Arnprior, Ontario. So Tony, I'm going to end this and I will pass the presentation off to you.
Brandon, appreciate it. I guess I'll say a few words about Metaligna, who we are, what we do, where we're headed, and then talk a little bit about our LGS building systems, and then we can probably send it back to Brandon after that. So a little bit about myself. My background spans in construction from family. My parents immigrated to Canada early in the 60s. My father started one of the first drywall companies in Ottawa, and from there I was a construction brat born here. Basically went through university, got into engineering, got into structural, and then started with my family company into the drywall business. So LGS, light gauge studs, pretty much has been in my blood for a long time. I'm just going to share my screen here. Sorry,
Tony, it's Brandon Searle here. I'm not sure if you have your camera on, but we don't see you either. So
okay, give me a second. I'm just going to turn the.
We can see the presentation. No problem.
Okay. There we go.
Perfect.
So, like I said, my background is about 25 years in the construction industry from when I was a young adult till today. My focus has been in the last 12 years bringing light gauge load bearing members to the forefront of our construction process. The idea of being able to use digital tools was brought to us early on, actually through Graitec. At the time was MWF software, and Brandon and his team quickly adopted us into the system so that we could automate a lot of our processes. From what I know in Canada, being involved in a few capital projects and larger projects, from what I know, we're the only 450 level of detail building systems provider there that I know of. There may be others, but we've dealt with quite a few of the large GCs, and they've told us that we're probably one of the only. Speaking about what we're talking about with offsite construction, it's more than just a building in a factory. It's really a shift towards a model where every design, everything is digitally imprinted into a plan, so that we can deliver more predictable outcomes. The more that you're able to fabricate in-house with the reliability of Revit, Graitec, and what we do here, the easier it is in the field. And with our shrinking workforce and our ever-expanding demand, it's what we do here at Metaligna is offer our clients peace of mind, fast outcomes, and reliable outcomes. I'll get into the. So what we offer is a panelized LGS system, very much like what Brendan already shown from his Phoenix partners. Essentially, we fabricate all of our cold form steel framing in-house with our own roll formers using the CNC information that comes out of StruxCell. We fabricate to a CSA 8277 certification. We're a CSSBI compliant stud as well, so we don't have. We're able to use all the known data from engineering for the engineering process right now. We generally are able to install, 40 to 50% faster than if you were doing this on site alone. So our process is fairly quick. Usually a 6-story, 10,000 square foot footprint. Every floor is about 4 months to install. So like I said, we're 50% faster than conventional construction. We have a more predictable cost because we're designing through we own the entire BIM stack from architecture to structure right down to output. There's very little unknowns. We work those out in design, and then that alleviates a lot of change orders and extras that some clients face. Big benefits of using LGS components is obviously we are non-combustible, brings our insurance premium down, the high strength weight ratio, which also helps with the dead loads on the site. So we're able to shrink our footings, shrink our shear walls, and get very lean in the design process. There's very little on-site waste, and again, CSA certified. We work with a lot of different floor systems depending on what the client is looking for. We're generally involved early on with the client to figure out what their pain points are, where they have issues with their build budgets and so on, so that we can offer the best possible solution for them. We use a product out of Bailey called ComSlab. We can produce our own open web joists. We also have a C channel that we produce as well, that we do into a panelized system for floors. So we offer, and we can also use the basic systems that are out there, Can-Am, Nucor, all those types of joists that are out there for floor systems, and we offer all of them with our building systems. The ComSlab composite floor system is really the one we like using the most because it does offer us a lot more engineering prowess. It's a long span system. It performs very well. The concrete allows for a good diaphragm and allows to spread out loads, cantilever loads in other areas as well, and gives you a fire rated assembly right away. And all of this again is all modeled through BIM, through advanced CNC methods. And we prefab and panelize all this stuff in our shop so that we're able to send it to site with very minimal on-site labor. We also have the long span joists with Hambro EcoFloor in our own I-span as well, and that allows us to do the different toppings, whether it be gypcrete or concrete. We have our own. We have quite an extensive expertise in long span trusses, utilizing some of Graitec stuff, also our own engineering, MTAPs, and so on. We've done trusses up to. This is a truss that's up to 68 feet, and this was also significantly load bearing. This was for a long-term care in the Mohawk region. And we're able to produce these in our shop. Our shop is a little over 160,000 square feet, and we produce all sorts of different size projects. The big comparisons of why we went, why we decided as a building company to panelize specifically in steel versus wood was obviously the non-combustible. It's safer, it's more insurable. They're straight, they're true, they always stay that way. They don't warp, they don't twist, and there's no mold. So for us, when we're talking about offsite, when we're talking about being precise, I like to use the analogy of Ford switched to a steel chassis after the Model T because they needed to get into mass manufacturing. So when you're dealing with that, you need finite numbers, and wood doesn't give you that. So wood is also combustible. It has code requirement limitations. It's an inconsistent material and susceptible to moisture damage, especially in Canadian winters. Having wood on site, freeze thaw systems, you're gonna freeze thaw moments. You're gonna have some flexibility in the structure, whereas with steel you don't. Other hidden costs versus traditional builds, why we've kept to steel on our side for rapid housing and so on, is obviously daily labor costs of having a fire watch, delays due to weather or inconsistency of trades is a big one. The rework, and quality issues when we're doing all of our design in house and we're able to leverage Revit. There's not much rework that ever happens because everything's been planned out and everything's been coordinated. And that's what we do here at Metaligna to help the building industry, get a little bit faster, get a little bit more product out there, and house a little bit more people. I'll turn it back over to Brandon.
Perfect. So, not sure, Brandon, did you and Tony want to join now for the panel discussion, or did you have a couple more slides you want to?
No,
Okay,
that's yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we said turn back over to Brandon. I was like, oh, did I miss something?
Too many
no,
Brandons.
yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So we got a few questions that came in there, and there's more continuing to come in. So maybe I'll go to you, Brandon, first. This question came in asking about Graitec's plugins or apps for precast concrete modeling and detailing. We've worked with a few companies, and most of them are using Nemetschek or a Trimble software. I'm not sure if you guys have something similar to, say, Tekla Structures or something like that.
Yes, we have a number of different solutions at Graitec. One of our biggest products in the past was actually Advanced Steel, which we then sold to Autodesk. We do still have Advanced Design, which is the structural analysis package there, but more towards the topic. So specifically in rebar, we have an excellent rebar detailing tool, which is just absolutely phenomenal. That is part of our Power Pack series of tools. It is also Revit based, and just like Struxop, we're able to take all of that from design out towards fabrication, so it manages the whole MES portion of it as well. Specifically for precast, we're still in development to leverage kind of that rebar detailing tool and bring it into the precast environment, simply because we haven't had too much request from customers on that yet. I think I mentioned most of our development is based off of customer requests that we're responding to where the industry is sending us. So definitely a conversation I'd like to have more if at all possible.
Perfect. That's great. Next, I'm going to combine a couple here, and they're from my colleague. And so I think I know where the questions are coming from and why they're being asked. As a OCRC, we're doing a lot of work with companies that are looking to expand their business. And so they're either expand their current factory, build a new factory, and that often starts with time studies, which we do time studies to understand bottlenecks in the factory, but then you realize to implement any of the tech that you'd like to in the factory, you actually got to start at the design phase and kind of rethink the way that they're designing. A lot are stuck in the AutoCAD Revit environment and have to transition into a DFMA type mentality. So one of the questions, how much MEP detail can be added into the models, just conduits or whole systems? And do you use one type of framing truss system as a standard for each type of panel, wall, floor, ceiling, etc.? And maybe that's a Tony question, the second one, sorry.
We can handle both of them if you want, Brandon, or you can handle the MEP
Go ahead,
one.
yeah.
I mean, we bring in, so depending on the project and depending on where the ownership stands with the design, we either bring in blocks for like jello molds for MEP, okay, where essentially You would get the sizing. We would then just create a block and then run it through Revit. And then the great thing about the software that we get from Structsoft is it automatically clash detects that, and we're able to frame around it. So there's a few different ways. If you're going to the full volumetric, which we have done before, where we do, like we've done some hospital clinics and so on, you can model absolutely everything, whether it be core lines, whether it be HVAC ducts, VAVs, fire dampers, all of that stuff can be modeled right to the level of detail that you need it to be modeled to, and even get down to the schedules for piece counts. So that's something that we've done quite a bit. That's that aspect. The other question, which was what framing materials we use for different applications, it kind of reverts back to understanding the project more. We don't isolate. We don't pigeonhole the client into one framing type. We go from the project back. So we take what the client needs on the project, and then we revert it back to what we can actually produce in the shop. There's not a lot that we can't do with Structsoft and with our product. I built an iceberg for a museum on our ceiling. I built a hospital. So you know what I mean? Like it really comes down to what the client is looking for, and then we'll figure out which framing application is the best suited for it.
Perfect. Anything to add to that, Brandon? Or?
Yeah, I mean, just on the MEP side of things, you know, Revit is a beast of a software, and you know, you're asking, you know, what level of detail does MEP have to be modeled towards, and in reality, it doesn't. So first off, we can use linked files to do that clashing that Tony mentioned, you know, previously. And then the other thing is there's multiple ways to skin that cat in Revit. You know, if you're aware of you know, how you want to build, there are shortcuts that can be taken to pull out model lines, for instance, when you're doing in-wall clash detection, where you want to have punch outs, for instance, in the studs for hot and cold, you know, water supply. So instead of actually having to model that hot and cold water supply, you can just basically trace a line where you know it's going to be and create those punch outs. So it's quite open to how much detail or how little detail you need to see.
Perfect. No, thank you. I'm going to go to you here, Tony. This is specific to A277 in your QMS software. I will mention too, we've been doing quite a bit of work recently with the Atlantic provinces. One of the things we did is we hosted a workshop in each province. It was part of a federally funded project, and it was identifying some core barriers to modular or prefab in general. Some things that came up, particularly in some of the smaller provinces, is the cost barrier of to get CSA A277 certified, and then, you know, I mean, we could probably get into having that like guaranteed sustainable demand or offtake agreements or whatever we want to call them, and how that can lower down costs through economies of scale and so on. But A277 has been coming up quite a bit on the East Coast, and how you get there and the cost within and so on. So maybe if you want to speak, if you're willing to speak to your experience of how you got or the process to get your factory A277 certified, the quality management system you use, so on.
We developed an in-house quality management system specifically because it is a very difficult. There's no out-of-the-box solution, right, that works for what we do. So we came up with our own quality control system, quality checks, and so on. Intertech was a very big part of it. CSA was also obviously involved with Intertech to develop it. And then it took us a little bit more than a year to get up to the A277. Cost us quite a bit of money. It'd be in the six figures. But I think it's critical. I think it's critical for the industry to have it, to have manufacturers have this certification, solely because it weeds out the how do they say, fly by night type of companies that'll just come in and out, ruin. Like the biggest problem we have in our industry, and gaining towards the certification side, is that there are a lot of people that'll try this get into it, have a few mistakes, have a few issues down the line, and then all of a sudden it'll sour the industry for a couple of years, right? We've had a few. London was an example a couple of years ago where the building collapsed on a few people. Unfortunately, some people died. There's another collapse of a building in southern Ontario. I can't remember where, Milford, I think it was, where another building fell because again, people are thinking that this is a very easy business to get into. It's not. So
yeah, no, yeah, 100%. And I mean, even going beyond the quality side, there's a lot of newcomers to as the federal budget's announced and things and people trying new things. So it is important and we know Build Canada Homes put out an RFQ. Hopefully that will pre-qualify folks and that will weed out the fly by night, so to speak. But yeah, I know like one thing, like I'll speak specifically to hypothetically, I guess, Newfoundland and Labrador, they have a big housing shortage there. Their vacancy rates are really tiny in St. John's particularly. We're going to see a lot of growth likely through the nation building projects up in Labrador. And to my knowledge, they don't have a CSA certified builder. And to them, it's like demand is there, but not like the runway that you'd have, say, in the GTA or Southern Ontario. So how do you find a way to lower that cost, but ensuring that folks have that certification? So I think that's where some folks are struggling.
What we've been helping out with a lot of different folks when it comes to that is that we're CSA designers, we're CSA developers, and setting up a satellite in Labrador or the East Coast where our product goes there in pieces and then assembled there, giving the jobs to the people there. Because the setup of a plant for something that we do is not just a CSA. You have the roll forming machines, you have the tables, you have the and so getting into that type of an industry, yes, you can do it in wood, you can do it in steel, you can do it in all different products, but having the flexibility that we can send out C-cans worth of material already kitted, already ready to go, that standard is CSA, right? So the build is already done that way, and then you're employing only assembly in the East Coast is another option that we've explored. We do this right now currently for the Caribbeans, right? So we send out a ton of product down to the Caribbeans. We're actually hopefully we're going to find out, I think, in the next couple of weeks here whether we're going to get involved in Jamaica and in Haiti where the hurricanes hit, right? So we're waiting to hear if we're going to be one of the responders for that. So there is an opportunity where you don't have to have that big capital cost of going through what we did to get there and then still effectively do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm just, since we're rolling with you right now, Tony, I'll jump back to you in a sec, Brandon, but and I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I won't speak for you. What level of finish do your modules have going out the door? As in, like, what still needs to be done on site from an interior side? I'm guessing that's project by project, site specific, different things like that. But maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, they're site specific. Most of our modules go about 90%. We tend to like to leave the exterior cladding to the site just for continuity. We do have some products where we've done some EFIS style stuff where it does lock in very nicely. But the interiors, I mean, you're talking about stitches between two pods and so on. So we're usually 90-95% complete.
Nice. And I guess, yeah, actually, I won't go there yet. I want to make sure we get to the questions for the folks have here. So we have one for you, Brandon, about plug-in for wood structurally insulated panels. Do you guys have anything for that, for SIP panels?
Yeah, for SIP panels, we've done some software in the past. It's definitely something that we do today. Again, most SIP panels have some level of intricacy in how they connect or how they're being put together. So, because these things aren't standardized and what machines they're being put through, it's always important to take a look at every single use case and before putting a yes stamp on it. So I definitely invite you to reach out. We can take a look at it and see if what we have works for you.
Perfect. Oh, that sounds good. So yeah, and I think if you wanted to drop your email in the chat, feel free to do that. I think we can share it after as well. Um, the next question, Tony, I'm going to go to you for this, and Brandon, you can jump in too because I've been at DBC's factory in Phoenix. I know the DPR team fairly well as well, so I have a decent idea of some of the stuff they use. But this question is around MEP connections, Tony. So some of the work that we've been doing is around plug and play connections, and the easiest, I think, from a technical perspective, the easiest problem to solve is in electrical. Now, from a building code side, it's not that easy. So we've seen a colleague in Sweden, or was in Sweden recently, and they had plug and play electrical system. I was just talking to someone in Denver. They actually have these 120 and 240 volt plug and play connection points that are actually fabricated and made in BC, but to my knowledge, no one here is using them. Now, when I've talked to some manufacturers like yourself, they were informed through through folks with the building code that you need an access panel at any connection point. So that from a manufacturing side, if you're finishing the interior, isn't ideal, and it just doesn't look great. So I guess, are you guys using any plug and play connectors, or is that something on your mind right now? What have you seen, or where are you going?
So when we did a couple of years ago, we did the mobile health unit during COVID for Health Canada, and that we created our own plug and play connector system. In Europe, they have a bunch because it's just easier with a direct current to be able to run power consistently through a bunch of units without loss. So in Europe, it's a little bit different that they do have. There's a couple of German companies. There's a Belgian company that also makes a direct current quick connect. For us, the cost barrier of doing the quick connects is not there. You can put a junction box and an access panel, and you're done, right? So for us, when we're doing modular, it just doesn't make sense at this point. As costs start dropping on these things, and as building codes evolve for it, then we will. But currently, right now, there's no cost benefit for it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, when we've talked to like particularly the GC, and maybe this will be a question for you next. A lot of times we've heard from manufacturers that they prefer to do the scope of work that's in the factory. Obviously, this ties into payment schedules and progress claims, everything later, but they prefer to do the scope of work in the factory because that's what they know best, and then hand that off to a GC who knows the local trades and knows the managing of the job site and putting it all together. Now, there aren't a ton, to my knowledge, of GCs who are really good at putting modules together, but that number continues to grow as we're seeing the industry grow. I guess from and when we talk to them, they'll say, it's great, it's a lot faster, but when we get it on the job site, we get bottlenecked up trying to connect all the electrical, plumbing, so on and so forth, some rework with drywall, whatnot. What's the scope of work that you guys typically do in terms of on-site versus in the factory? And do you hear that from any of your partners when you're delivering projects?
We partner, right? We don't. Yeah. We're the manufacturer. We're a white label. If someone wants to do whatever they want to do, we just follow their guidance on what they want us to complete and what they don't want us to complete. Yeah. We try and effectively do as much as we possibly can in shop to save them time on site. If it means leaving off a sheet of drywall and they finish it off on site, that's what they do, right? We generally deal with the same 2 to 3 modular GCs across Canada. I won't mention them here. I don't know if they'd like me to mention them here, but I could. But anyway. And then one installer, just because they know how we build. They'll travel throughout Canada and they'll do it. We're doing one with them in Mississauga coming up, where they're cool. Doing a camp up there. So we try to keep it to people that we know, and then we start leveling out our output based on their availability and so on with the.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, since I have you, I don't know if you'd be willing to share this, but one thing that does come up a lot, and I think this is stuff that Build Canada Homes and other public and private owners are looking at, and then as a result, the banks and insurance companies and so on, is contracts, procurement models, and then the the transfer of payment. So an example that I used in front of a group quite a bit is, the factory, they're best at what's happens in the factory, but sometimes they need to take on the scope, or they may feel obligated to take on more site scope, because one example is company here, they knew they wouldn't get the work if they required a down payment at the beginning, so they said no, but the site work was, the civil scope was out of their scope of work, and so they sat on the modules for 10 months as a result, because the mods were ready before the site and weren't paid for 10 months. And then you get into these situations where public sector is not willing to, not just public, but in general, owners aren't willing to do that down payment without seeing site progress. Banks aren't willing to do it currently, and so on. I guess, Tony, what would you recommend to owners? And do you guys have a rule of thumb, or is it project specific for that kind of down payment and progress claim throughout?
So we tend to have project specific depending on the clients, depending on the GCs that we're dealing with. If they're going to be a GC or a construction manager, how is that all playing out with the clients? Typically, what we've done is the biggest stress, I guess, for the owners is, are they actually being built, right? So they're giving a manufacturer down payment, right? And are we sitting on the money, or are we actually building or acquiring stuff to do that, right? So we're very transparent when it comes to these types of things. We offer to even lease space at $1 in the shop, where we place all of their goods that we're ordering and so on. So we'll take off 20,000-30,000 square feet of the warehouse. We'll start bringing in all the raw materials and so on, and we'll have it there. They'll have a camera there. They can see the goods going in and out, right? So like we're being completely transparent, and that allows them to start advancing some funds. During the construction process, same thing. Throughout our quality control and our build out, they have access to our platform, so they're able to see as projects get completed, as units get finished, and we do go through the quality control checklists. They're able to check it off their box. Okay, this box is finished, that box is finished, and so on. And again, the door is open. We don't lock anybody out. Come and see. I have nothing to hide here. If they want to send a quantity surveyor to come and review for the bank, by all means, come and review for the bank. One thing we don't do is that if the reason why modular has started to become very unattainable is because of people holding back the progress of the payments. And so when we have to become banks as modular builders, it costs more money for us. So then it trickles downstream, right? So we very much encourage our clients to come and see what we're doing at all times with their projects. We're very open about it, and they have access to our platforms to see where their project's at, so that they can have some confidence in the build percentage.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, one example that I heard, it was probably 10 months ago now, and there's a multi-story in Toronto, 9-story, and the prefab builder required 20% down, and the developer was working with their cost consultant and their bank, who they've worked with for over 20 years, and they couldn't come up to an agreement on that 20% down. So that schedule savings of 8 to 12 weeks to then get, the building occupied quicker and revenue quicker for the owner operator was all gone, because they were dipping into their own pockets to fund the 20%. And so there's, we wrote a national roadmap recently. We're doing this one in Atlantic Canada. A lot of barriers are really upstream pre-construction, and it's contract to procurement to insurance to banks. So it's I'm happy you're willing to kind of open your doors and educate all those folks on the way that this works. So it's great.
I think there's also another entity that's starting up in Toronto. I don't know if he's actually watching. Usually he comes to these things, but there's a modular risk that's forming.
Yeah, a tool.
Where being able to categorize different modular builders as being whether they're reputable or not, right? Giving the bank some sort of wherewithal to say, hey, if these guys don't perform, you're not reliant on a bond that you're going to have to fight for, right? Like these guys produce. Some things have happened in the industry where people are chasing bonds right now, but
yes, we won't name names, but
we won't name names here, but
yeah.
It's one of those things where if there was a governing body or some sort of a in Ontario, an Ontarion, to back it up, right? To basically say, hey, we're able to be afforded that money with trust. Right?
Yeah. No, yeah, and thanks for bringing up modular risk in the tool. We've been talking to him a bit, and I would encourage folks on the call to reach out. They've done a very deep dive into the risks associated with modular and offsite projects, and to be honest, a lot of them would be applied to all construction, but just maybe highlighted a bit more here and there. Less risky because it's in a factory, sometimes more risky because it's in a factory. So it's some folks who are retired CMHC people who've seen that side of it for sure. Last question I want to ask, maybe both of you. I had a colleague, so the federal government reached out to them asking if there's one thing you could change in the National Master Specification, what would it be to then enable prefab or modular construction? And I don't know how much you look at the NMS, but let's just go to the National Building Code, the Energy Code, or the NMS. Maybe Tony, if there's anything, is there one or two things specifically as a leader in this space that you'd want to see changed?
Loaded question. Blow it all up? I don't know. It's archaic. I mean, there's so many other solutions out there that fall in the grays of that master schedule that it's really difficult to, like, how do you focus your scopes in these schedules now, right? So I don't know, maybe it's just a new modular schedule.
You have any thoughts on that, Brandon?
I mean, not particularly. I think I think, like Tony, it is difficult. It's not something that works well for builders. Yeah, I think it needs review.
I do know that there's a committee formed for modular. It's under several kind of groups looking at with the National Building Code. And I've heard some things around like the blower door tests as an example of some things that could potentially change. Fire, sound. We actually working with a manufacturer who sent us a very detailed list of 10 recommendations they'd like to see changed in the MBC, and I imagine that would benefit the whole industry. So just thought I'd throw it out there in case you'd help me answer the question, because I haven't gotten back to the person who asked me yet.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
We don't have enough time for that one. We don't have enough time for that one.
No, that's true. All right, so I'm going to maybe wrap it up there. Just a reminder for folks, this is recorded, and it will be posted online. If some folks were asking about the transcript, we'd always share that as well. In addition to that, we write a blog with every webinar, so Tony and Brandon are going to review that blog and give us the thumbs up before it's posted, but that will be on our website too. And if you want to, I'd encourage you to follow Tony on social media and LinkedIn in particular. I didn't meet Tony before today, but I always get a chuckle out of some of his posts online, so I'd encourage you to check that out. And outside of that, I'm just going to highlight a couple other things. So our next webinar is happening in December with Horizon Legacy. It's focused on on-site robotics, so they recently finished a project there, and that's with Archer and Ulinos. And then just the other thing, a lot of folks reach out to us asking, particularly professional engineers and architects who have to collect professional development hours. If you need a certificate for your attendance, please scan this QR code on your screen right now and just fill that out. We'll make sure to get you a certificate. And if you participated in the one in October, feel free to scan or to let us know of that as well. And outside of that, I just want to thank you again for joining, and thank you, Tony and Brandon, for being our presenters. It was a great chat and great presentation. Thank you.